Hello, this is Pastor Micah from Life's Journey United Church of Christ. I want to share our midweek reflection with all of you. I've been focusing in our midweek reflections at Life's Journey on the Beatitudes, and I want to continue to reflect on the Beatitudes tonight, which I feel shed light on the trying times we are facing and how to be people of God, people who make a difference in the midst of them. Last week, we reflected on the need for radical solidarity with the oppressed, the marginalized, and the poor. Reflected in the saying of Jesus that says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Today, we continue to look at Jesus' Beatitudes by reflecting on the saying that blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And this is a really interesting beatitude. With the grieving, as I do in my work with hospice and also as a pastor, it's really clear to me that if we are honest, for most of us, the mourning, those who are hurting, those who are broken down, those who are suffering and in tears, are exactly those most of us seek to avoid. And yet, as the late Henry Nouwen once wrote correctly, when we honestly ask ourselves, which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness. That is a friend who cares. Our difficulty being for others, they're for others who are suffering, who are going through losses, is often linked with our own desire to run from and hide from our own pain. And yet, to not face and own our own pain limits our ability to be with others in their pain. And to mourn and grieve, as this beatitude invites us is to name our own pains and sorrows to ourselves, to God, and to others. Facing your own sorrow, naming it, is a large part of what it means to mourn. And it is a large part of what the Psalms invite us to. The Psalms are a book of model prayers in the Bible. They're designed, as we read them, to invite us to pray our own words along the themes brought up by each of those psalms. And so many of these psalms invite us to name what we have endured to God and others, to mourn, to grieve. Facing this opens us up to the suffering others face, so we can be that one who, like Nouwen said, truly is a friend to them. Buddhist teacher Pema Chödrön talks of the importance of facing and naming our struggles rather than running away from them in her own writings, saying that that is what we need to do, to face them head on if we want to have a heart of compassion like Buddha. And in our case as Christians, like Jesus, things falling apart is a kind of testing and also of healing, she writes. We think that is to pass the test or to problem, but the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, room for release, room for misery. When things fall apart, she writes, and we can't get the pieces back together, when we lose something us, when the whole thing is just not working, and we don't know what to do, this is the time when the natural warmth of kindness, the warmth of empathy and tenderness are just waiting to be uncovered, just waiting to be embraced. This is our chance to come out of our self-protecting bubble and to realize that we are never alone. This is our chance to finally understand that wherever we go, everyone we meet is essentially just like us. Our own suffering, if we turn toward it, can open us to a loving relationship with the world. Yet mourning need not always be for ourselves alone. In the Bible, the ultimate mourner is the author of Lamentations. Though Lamentations does not name its author, traditionally, Lamentation, a book whose name literally means grieving or mourning, traditionally its author is Jeremiah, known throughout Jewish history as the weeping prophet for how he. And in both the book of Lamentations and the book that bears Jeremiah's name, mourning is a part of what he does. But the mourning he does is not just crying out for himself alone, but also crying out for those who are hurting among his own people, those being oppressed, struggling. Similarly, Psalms, I mentioned that they invite us to, but they don't invite us only to grieve and mourn for ourselves. We should, but as a doorway, opening us up to also mourning for others, for all facing oppression and suffering in our world. Here we are reminded again that the way forward to building a new world is to be able to grieve those who are hurt and brokenhearted in the world we currently share. Far too often, we only weep tears, if we do it all, for our own sorrows, or the sorrows of those we deem as like us. Not worrying about the pain of others, or those our society has taught us to think of as the other. Here we are reminded again that forward to building a new world, a new way of being together as a community, to the kingdom of God that Jesus preached about, is to be able to grieve those who are hurt and brokenhearted in the world we currently have. And if you think about those great evils done in our world, they're done because of not having that heart that mourns and grieves with others. Slavery could not have happened so long in our country without people closing their hearts to the sorrow of others, especially people who were enslaved. Segregation, lynching, Jim Crow, and police brutality of the past and today cannot continue either, could not continue then, without people closing their heart to the suffering of those impacted by it. Also, children. Children could not have been ripped away from their families to be sent to concentration camps in Nazi Germany, or held in cages by ICE in modern America or deported without some closing their hearts to them, removing the opportunity to have compassion and grieve with them as they grieve. If we were moved with compassion, how could we stand by unmoved? while LGBTQIA people's rights were trampled underfoot in the past or today? And how could we let our sense of comfortability and freedom, individually or in how we run churches and businesses, trump protecting other people's health and life now, as some do when they shrug off wearing masks, washing their hands, or waiting 6 feet apart in social settings, or as some do when they push to rejoin business as usual in their community, in their church, in their lives, not thinking of how that will impact others. As I said in my sermon this past Sunday, we have to allow our grief, our tears, to be turned into strength, to be turned into a will to change what is broken, to stand in solidarity. This begins by filling that grave. In closing, as it is Pride Month, I want to share a song inspired by those who fought for LGBT rights early on in that movement. The song Singing for Our Lives. This song began as a song of mourning, of lament, of grief, when Harvey Milk, an outspoken leader of the LGBT rights movement, was killed in a hate crime aimed at silencing his voice. One movement leader was overcome with grief and created a song that began as a song of despair and moved into a song of solidarity, a song of strength, calling us to action. It goes, we are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing. And if you get a chance, I want to invite you to watch the history of this song as YouTube. I'll be sharing that in the email for this. I'm going to try now to see if I'm able to share that YouTube with you as we record. That tells the history of this song and this call to solidarity. All right, we're going to play it now.
We are gentle, loving people, and we are singing for our lives.
I think the song that probably resonates the most as an anthem is Singing for Our Lives, which she wrote when Harvey Milk was assassinated.
The mayor of San Francisco was shot and killed in his office in City Hall this morning. So was Harvey Milk, a city supervisor. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, Harvey Milk was a champion of homosexual rights.
We're driving down to San Francisco. It was like we had to be there. We just had to get there. I'm driving and I suddenly hear this guttural noise. It was a primal sound coming out of Holly. And she starts humming. And she hums it, and she hums it, and she hums it, and then she starts singing. And by the time we get to San Francisco, she's written 2 verses.
And that night, we all sang, we are gay and lesbian people, and for many, it was the first time they'd said those words out loud about themselves. And then the song flew out, and allies began to sing it. And the words were changed to we are gay and straight together. And the song found its way into the Unitarian hymnal. And then we learned a lot more about sexuality. And now I can't fit all the words into the meter of the song. But whatever door you walk through to your very essence, just know that we see you. We see you. And we are all in this together.
of the LGBT movement.
And it's a song that's been carried all over the world, sung by hundreds of thousands of people.
We are land of many colors, and we are singing for our love.
My response to you singing that song was immediate and so intense, and it would have overwhelmed me, except it felt instead that a calming fire had started in me.
Singing for our lives, we are gay and straight. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives.
Well, friends, I want to challenge you to name your own struggle with God, to be moved by it, and to be moved by others' suffering, to sit with them in solidarity, to name that to God, by being moved solidarity, by mourning with those, to also be moved to action with them, to address those causes. From that place, we can be in it together, singing for our and others, working to be a healing presence, broken, and a light that shines, though surrounded by darkness. Amen. And